So if you don't have the installation tool for the front of these 2008 Jeep Wranglers, this is a 36 millimeter socket, and it literally fits right in the groove of the seal. So there's no play. It doesn't, there's no issue with you just lightly taking this. What I did was I got it dead center. I started the seal just nice and even, and then I just lightly until it started, and then I started with the side of a little small, like 2-pound maul, and it went right in. No problem at all. Basically what we did was we cleaned out the seal on each side, and then we used we took the new seal and installed it. I do them dry. I'm not going to put oil on them. They're intended to be installed dry anyway, in my opinion. This is a 36 millimeter, and I just felt it nice and even, just all the way in there with no fighting, no nothing. I mean, a little resistance. You want the resistance there. That's how you know it's fitting properly. And I just did it until it bottomed out. When you get inside here, you're going to see there's a couple of these plastic washers. These actually slide over the axle. There's 2 of them. You want both of them out. You can throw them away if you want to, or you can try to bend them back and line them back up on the axle, because it helps keep them centered inside the axle housing, but they're not necessary. Just be careful when you go to install the axle. And yeah, that's really it. These are garbage. You got to pull the front diff out when you do this, and to install it, you're going to put the shims back in the same way. I have a little trick that I use when I put these together. When I go to set this in, be careful, because you can easily smash your fingers with this. I'll rest my ring here on the bottom, and I'll try to kick these bearing cups out a little bit on an angle. And then what I'll do, everybody does this different, is I'll go ahead and try to start. I'll use a little pry bar on the bottom here, and yep, see, there it went. It started to massage in. And then take it. There's probably going to be a million people in the comment section, man, you can't tap it. Well, I'm doing it. I've done it for years this way, and I ain't going to change the way I'm doing it now for a couple people from the peanut gallery. And if I need to, I can take this, tap this here, tap this here, tap my shim in the way it's supposed to go. And I'll just real lightly give her a couple taparoos, and I'm not banging on and beating on, just little love taps, a little bit, nothing too crazy. And I'll just, if I can mainly focus on the edge of the shim and not the bearing case, that's what I'm doing, then I'm good. And then eventually I'll have this where it's sticking out a little bit, and my shim, I'll come back over here a little bit, and I end up walking it right back in where it goes. Sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to be, and if I get it in there enough, I can start to manipulate these bolts. I'll put like a 17 millimeter on here, and I'll work the pinion on the other side, and I'll actually slowly, depending on how I actually let my wrench rest, top or bottom of this bar, I can walk that back in a little bit. And that's all she wrote, folks. It's in. I can start to slide my axles and stuff in there, and we're good to go. I'll finish it up and I'll show you guys what it looks like down. Okay, so now get my caps put on there, get them all torqued down. What are these, like 70 foot-pounds or 80 foot-pounds? Huh? I don't even know what the torque spec is yet. I gotta figure it out. So what he did over here when he slid this axle through is he kind of stuck his fingers back there behind it as the axle was going through, and he put his fingers under it. You can put a pry bar and kind of kicked it up some, so as he was sliding it through, he didn't catch the seal, and now you can see the nub of the axle right here sticking through the spider gear. And it didn't catch the seal at all. It was just a nice smooth transition. On this side over here, it might be a little bit more difficult. You might have to put a pry bar underneath it a little bit to help lift up the shaft so you don't catch the seal. Do the other one now. So he's going to clean the end of it off, try to make sure there's no debris and stuff on it as much as possible. And then we're going to take a pry bar. Hold on. There it goes, it went in. There it is. And now you look and see it slid right in without catching the seal. Just got to maneuver it around a little bit. And that's it. Now you put everything back together, and your torque spec for your straps, bearing cap bolts are, what does that say, 45 foot-pounds? Yeah, 45 foot-pounds for these bolts, and then put everything back together. Your pinion nut torque is 160. It says 160 to 400 foot-pounds, so I'd probably put it at 160 and leave it alone. The axle nut, well, the pinion nut is different because it's going to go by, you're not doing the pinion nut, so you don't need that actually. Axle nut is 100 foot-pounds for the axle nut, 80 foot-pounds for the ring gear bolts, which you're not going to be touching that. For the caps is 45. And then what about your hub bearing bolts? Hub bearing bolts are 75, so the bolts on the outside are 75 foot-pounds. These are 45 foot-pounds, and your axle nut on the very, very outside when you put the wheel bearing and stuff back on is 100 foot-pounds. And that's it. New seals installed using a 36 millimeter socket, not the tool. You can get the tool on Amazon that works just as good as the socket does. It's a little safer to actually use the tool on Amazon for it's like 32 bucks. I actually have one, but it's not here. So I just used the 36 millimeter socket and just real careful install it. You're not going to damage anything if you're careful. That's all it is. Then the job is done. Put everything back together, clean your mess and stuff up. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. Finished. And the axle seals were National Oil Seals, is what we got, 710863. 2 of them.